How would you like to go on a day trip, a stunning scenery from Fort William to Skye by road and then back by ferry, visiting key sites of Jacobite history along the way? We're going to High Bridge, then along Loch Lochy to Invergarry Castle, round by Loch Cluny to the site of the Battle of Glen Shiel. Of course, we'll stop off at Eilean Donan Castle, which is not to be missed, before heading over the bridge to Skye for a taste of where Armadale Castle and gardens fit into Jacobite history. Then, by ferry back to the mainland in Glenfinnan. So, if you're interested in the people, places and events in Scottish history, then click the subscribe button at the bottom right of the screen and ring the notification bell to make sure that you're informed when I upload new videos. In the meantime, let me take you on a journey. A short 15-minute drive from Fort William is where we start our day. It's also where the 1745 Jacobites started their uprising. Now, I know you maybe think that the start of the 45 was Bonnie Prince Charlie raising his standard at Glenfinnan, where there's a National Trust for Scotland car park and a cafe to prove the point. But the events actually started here. This is a memorial cairn that commemorates the events. Now, just over there is the High Bridge. There's actually a path down there, but it's pretty overgrown these days, so make sure and bring a drone. When the Hanoverian government realised that Charles Stuart was in town, soldiers all over Scotland were activated. Around 100 Royal Scots from Fort Augustus came marching down the Great Glen towards Fort William. Isn't it interesting how nowadays we talk about these places as towns rather than garrisons? Unless you speak Gaelic. Anyway, as they came towards what they would have called High Bridge, but the locals would have called Androchich Van, they might have thought they were nearly there. But they were still in hostile territory. MacDonald of Keppoch had heard about their movements, but he had no army to bar their way. He had 13 men, and that was it. They hid behind an inn on this side of the bridge. As they saw the red-coated soldiers approaching, the piper struck up and the 13 men rushed from behind the pub, screaming battle cries and darting from tree to tree back and forward. The government troops didn't know what was going on. Where were they? How many were there? And who was playing that bloody awful music? The captain of the Royal Scots told a sergeant and a servant to advance across the bridge to find out how strong the force was. The sergeant saw the brown runny stuff dribbling down his servant's leg and said, "The force is strong with him." That was a wee joke. The Jacobites let them cross the bridge, but when they'd reached this side, MacDonald's men jumped out at them and dragged them away. Now all the soldiers on the other side were feeling the force, and the officers started arguing about whether to attempt the crossing or retreat all the way back to Fort Augustus. Quickly, they decided to leg it. MacDonald told his clansmen to follow them, but keep enough distance so that the soldiers wouldn't realise how small their number was. By the time the Royal Scots had run 5 or 6 miles down the road that we're going to take next, the Jacobite numbers had been swelled by some Camerons and some more MacDonalds. They were now only outnumbered 2 to 1. So now they started shooting at the Redcoats, who fired back indiscriminately into the hills and all over the place. At the head of Loch Lochy, the troops found their way blocked by another 50 Jacobites under Glengarry, and Captain Scott was injured. MacDonald of Keppoch drew his sword and made bold but solitary footsteps towards the Royal Scots. He called out for them to lay down their arms. And they did. That's how the 45 uprising started before Bonnie Prince Charlie had ever raised his standard at Glenfinnan. It's worth pointing out that the way that these Jacobites treated their prisoners was in stark contrast to the way that they were treated after Culloden. The High Bridge, The Droghach van isn't there anymore, so we'll drive round by Spean Bridge before retracing the road on which the Redcoats came and went. It's a stunning, awe-inspiring drive along the shores of Loch Lochy. Big water and beautiful mountains. This wasn't only the road taken by retreating Redcoats, it was also the road taken by Bonnie Prince Charlie and his men. When they marched south, they skirted round here to avoid Fort William. He stopped for the night at Invergarry Castle. The castle's now a ruin, but you can pop in to see the remains that stand in the grounds of what's now Glengarry Castle Hotel. I should say that Bonnie Prince Charlie's men never did have the early engagement with General Cope's troops that they wanted. I've housed tour clients there, and it's a lovely hotel with log fires and stunning grounds leading down to stroll by Loch Loich. It's lovely. We don't have the time right now because I've got more to show you as I head along Loch Garry, round Loch Loyne and Loch Cluny and beyond to our next historic site. As you drive along the A87, as I've done lots of times, it's often easy to forget that there's a Jacobite battle site here too. Even if folks see the white cross swords on a brown background telling you of the Battle of Glen Shiel, most people will think nothing of it. And yet this was the location of a battle that was both local and international. In 1717, an Anglo-French alliance meant that James VIII's court in exile had to be moved to Spain. Now this led to a tag team match-up between the Jacobites and the Spanish. And on the 19th of March 1719, an armada headed out of Cadiz. Now most of them were heading to invade the south of England, but 2 frigates came north from San Sebastian with Jacobite leaders, troops, money and arms to hook up with Highland clansmen. Whilst the big fleet got caught up in storms, the frigates made it here north. And as 1,000 clansmen headed through this glen towards Inverness, British troops marched west from Fort Augustus. And the clash came above us here in the mountains overlooking Glen Shiel. Now today, it seems far too beautiful for a battle. But on the 10th of June 1719, you would have found Jacobites posted across the mouth of the Glen, Mackenzies, Murrays and Macraes. Spanish forces were positioned on the high surrounding hillside looking down. Rob Roy and his MacGregors waited on the northern hillside ready to counterattack. At 5 o'clock in the evening, the government troops commenced hostilities. The battle went to and fro. Spaniards, who knew about the disappointment of their countrymen to the south, didn't have the stomach for the fight, and many of them were captured and taken prisoner. But Highland Jacobites fought on. Without the Spaniards, they were just outnumbered, and by nightfall, they knew they were beaten. And so the Highlanders melted into darkness, carrying their wounded over the mountains. Whilst most of the Spaniards surrendered, some brave men refused, and they joined the Jacobites, escaping into the mountains. That's according to my mate Alejandro Francisco de la Hoz McLafferty. We just call him Sandy. "12 miles up the Glen and through Loch Duich is the base for that 1719 Jacobite uprising. Eilean Donan, the island of Donan, a 6th century Irish saint who came to Scotland around 580 AD. These days, as well as being a popular wedding backdrop and film location, it's one of the most popular tourist attractions in the Highlands, without doubt. In those days, it was a Mackenzie stronghold. From Iron Age fort through medieval religious site to frontier stronghold in the conflict with the Vikings. From a 13th century castle to the scourge of James I. Owned by the Mackenzies, guarded by the Macraes, attacked by the MacDonalds, destroyed and rebuilt. Not only is this castle more film credits than most, it's an intriguing history and outstanding beauty that you can come and find out about. but it was this 1719 Jacobite uprising that saw it destroyed. The Jacobites had used it as a supply base garrisoned by about 50 Spanish troops. 3 Royal Navy ships sailed up the west coast, weighed anchor in Loch Alsh and pounded the castle from the sea for 3 days before storming the island and blowing up the munition stores. The current castle is actually a 1920s recreation, but there's no doubt that it's one of the most stunning locations to stop for a coffee, explore the rebuilt stronghold, or just soak up the surroundings. In my itinerary, I've given you an hour to enjoy Eilean Donan Castle, but the time that you spend here will vary depending on whether you just want to stop and catch the view, or if you want to delve into the history and mystery of the castle itself. But you can't hang about too long, because we've still got to reach the Isle of Skye, crossing a bridge that caused as much controversy as the Jacobite uprisings themselves. And you can still take a ferry across to this day. It goes across the Kyle from Glen, and I'll show you that on another road trip. But at the southern end of Skye, you'll find the Calmac ferry and the remains of Armadale Castle, the seat of the MacDonalds of Slate. Today, it's set in the most beautiful, peaceful and relaxing gardens. But there's been upheaval here as well. If you go to the north of the island, to the Trotternish Peninsula, you'll find the ruins of Duntulm that had been the seat of the MacDonalds of Slate. But by the 1670s, they'd built a tower and farmhouse here at Armadale. Of course, this is a Jacobite road trip. So, Donald MacDonald, 3rd Baronet of Slate, rose up with the first fight back against the Williamite usurpers. His son, Donald, led their clansmen at the Battle of Killiecrankie. When the rising fizzled out, the new government tried to strike a deal, but the chief refused. That's when 2 frigates sailed into the bay to negotiate. It culminated in them bombarding the chief's house here and burning it to the ground. Donald headed back to North Skye and Duntulm Castle. In 1703, they built a replacement house here. It's where Flora MacDonald was married on the 6th of November 1750. Oh! In between times, young Donald, the 4th Baronet, had raised his clansmen in the 1715 uprising. The 6th Baronet had also been a Jacobite at the Battle of Killiecrankie and led the men of Slate at the 1715 Battle of Sheriff Muir. He stayed out of the 1719 uprising that we discussed at Glen Shiel, wisely enough. A later Alexander MacDonald tried to sell some of his clanspeople in indentured servitude, and in order to show gratitude to the Hanoverian regime for forgiving him those past indiscretions, stayed out of the 45 uprising. They were characters. The mansion house that remains was built in the late 18th century, followed by the castle in 1815. Sadly, it's now in ruins. The rebuilding after the 1855 fire just couldn't hold back the ravages of the 20th century. But there's way more history than that to be enjoyed here. There's 40 acres of woodland and gardens. Take a picnic, feel the tranquility, and then take a step into the Clan Donald Museum to discover the history of the biggest clan of them all. There are artefacts, there are displays. You can feel like you were with Somerled as he fought in those battles back in the day. You can feel like you were one of the emigres leaving their lands on which they'd lived for generation upon generation. You can experience the changes that went on to Clan Donald down the centuries and go away just that little bit wiser. You might even stay over in one of the wonderful cabins that Clan Donald let me stay in for one overnight trip. But the views are stunning. Sadly, I can't linger today because I have to head off to the ferry to get back to the mainland. A half-hour ferry takes you back to the mainland, but whilst we're on this ferry, let me tell you about a ferry that I'll be taking in September. because I'll be doing my live show Stories of Scotland at the Beacon Arts Centre in Greenock on the 1st of September before taking the ferry over to do the show at Donan Borough Halls on the 2nd. Click the link top right for tickets, or as always, click the link in the description below for details of all tour dates and tickets. We're on the way back to Fort William, but it's worth a stop just for a minute. 15 minutes from the ferry at Mallaig, you can look out on a view like that. And there's a cairn. A cairn that tells you that this was the last view seen by Bonnie Prince Charlie on the Scottish mainland. From this shoreline, he took ship to France. It's a beautiful sight. It's a view that makes you want to linger, but not for too long, else you start to think of the horrors that he was leaving in his wake. The year of the Prince was over. Nothing was going to be the same again. But let's go for one more stop. Today, many of the people who come here come to see or journey on the Jacobite train as it crosses the viaduct. More Harry Potter reenactment than Hanoverian rebel. But back here on the 19th of August 1745 was one of the most eventful days in Scottish, indeed British history. Bonnie Prince Charlie had sent out the call to gather here. This is where he would raise his standard. This is where the fight back to reclaim the rightful Stuart throne would begin. The story goes that he sat for hours in a hut, gradually becoming more and more depressed at the lack of response. He'd avoided capture in the Channel. He'd landed in the Hebrides, made it to the mainland, but now the rising was over before it had even started. And then, at around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, he heard noise from outside. He left the building to see what it was. In the distance, high in the hillside, you could hear the faint sound of the bagpipes. Slowly, the music became louder. The sound grew closer. Gradually, the realisation dawned that the bagpipes were playing for him. His eyes scanned the hillside. Was that movement? It was. It was Cameron of Lochiel with his Cameron Highlanders. Yeah, dancer! Hold on. They're coming in two directions. East from Lochiel and down Glenfinnan from Loch Arkeg. Oh, get it right up, you Hanoverian Johnny Lobsters! There was even a group who'd come from further east still, from Rannoch, living in the lands of Mingus and Robertson, but Camerons nonetheless. Some of their kinsmen from further west here had gone down and encouraged them to join up. And at the head of one of these groups of Camerons was one Miss Jenny Cameron. She was the daughter of Hugh Cameron of Glendessery. She probably just came to catch a glimpse of the Prince. But as the first woman to openly show support, you can imagine that the Hanoverian propaganda merchants gave her the full Meghan Markle treatment. The point is, the rising was on. William, Marquis of Tullibardine, the exiled Murray, who'd been at Killiecrankie, who'd been at Glen Shiel, unfurled the banner sewn by the ladies of Kinloch Moidart. There were 300 MacDonalds of Keppoch and 300 MacDonalds of Clanranald to add to the Camerons. 1,300 men in total. They headed east as we're going to. Now, our road trip's coming to an end, but theirs was just beginning. There's another historical road trip video coming up on screen now. Help me bring you more of these by clicking top right to become a Patreon member, or buy me a coffee in the description below. You'll find a link to all my tour dates and tickets down there as well. I look forward to seeing you. Ha mín dóchas gwn bí lá má live. Sherry and Rasta.